Welcome to the Solid Signal Podcast. The week is March 4th, 2019, and let's get started. This week I want to tell you a story sort of ripped from the headlines, as it were, something that I can tell you about happened to someone very close to me, and that's important because I want you to understand that these stories, they're just about people like you and how the products at solidsignal.com can really help. Yeah, sometimes I go off on a tangent, but more importantly, this podcast is about helping you get the most out of your modern life with the technology and conveniences that you can get over at Solid Signal. Enough of a commercial. After all, folks, come on, I do have to pay for this podcast. Let's get going. You know, I have a friend who recently started to take on a very long commute. A commute through some very bad weather. Not terribly surprising this time of year, but what she found was that cell service was surprisingly bad in some areas where she personally was a little worried that she was going to be stuck anyway. I'm glad that she looked because, you know, it's better to know you have bad cell service before you need to call 911 than after. But it surprises me, and I guess it should surprise you a little bit, that there still are areas, and I'm talking about major state highways, that have really bad cell service. Oh, some of them make sense because they're in mountains or passes or valleys or something like that, but there are just areas where the cell towers just aren't as good as they should be. I hate to say it, because after all, SolidSignal.com is an AT&T dealer, and I don't want to say anything bad about their service or the quality of what they provide. But no cell provider can be everywhere, and at least I can be happy to tell you that this particular person was on Verizon, and they weren't terribly happy with the service they got. I'm trying to get her on AT&T, but more importantly, the service that she was getting was a concern. It was a worry. There are some problems, perhaps some arguments at home about why are you going this way? What happens if you get stuck? And nobody likes it when that sort of thing happens. You don't want to argue with your friends and family members. You don't want to make them worried. All you want to do is just get to work, right? And that's why she put in a vehicle cellular signal booster. I've had a lot of people tell me, oh, I always get great service with my cell phone in my car. And obviously, it's just not true. If you get great service in your car all the time, okay, you don't need an individual booster. But if you're the sort of person who goes somewhere where there's just not good cell service, luckily there is an answer for you. It's just that simple. There's a way for you to get good cell service wherever you need it, as long as there is even a tiny, tiny signal to amplify. A vehicle cell booster is going to make a difference. Why? Because cars, my friend, are made out of metal. Okay, there are a few that are made out of fiberglass, but not that many. And one or two, I guess, made out of plastic, if there are still any Saturn owners out there. But most cars are made out of metal, whether they're made out of steel or aluminum or what have you, they're made out of metal. And they're essentially, boxes in which those signals just bounce back. Some signals come through your windows, but even if you have tinted windows or UV tinting on them, the signal level inside your car can be a lot worse than the signal level outside your car. And there are times, especially this time of year, when you do not want to get outside of your car just to make a phone call. You could find yourself in a cold area. You could find yourself snowed in. You could find yourself, if you're in a southern climate, somewhere that predatory animals are prowling around. You don't want to worry about it. So what a vehicle cell booster does is there's an antenna that sits outside, usually mounted to the roof one way or the other, whether if it's a glass roof, you use adhesive. It's a metal roof, you use magnets. But there's an antenna that's mounted on the roof. A very, very thin wire snakes through, sometimes through the trunk. That's the easiest way to do it. Sometimes through a door. And then it brings in great cell service into your car, just like you would have a cell booster in your home do the very same thing. Folks, it's worth it. It's worth the time. It's worth the money. And if you choose the right vehicle cell booster, you'll either get something that is perfect for you or perfect for everyone in the car or truck or RV. The point is that you won't have to worry about driving through those areas with poor signal and worrying your friends, worrying your family. So I urge you to check out the great selection of cellular signal boosters at solidsignal.com. We have all the best brands, and although I'm personally very partial to the WeBoost brand, we do have many other brands that are excellent, just as good in many ways. And depending on what your needs are, one of those other ones might satisfy you even better. It's hard to know because every cell booster is different. That's why there are dozens available. And again, I'll say it at solidsignal.com. That's about it for me for the podcast this week. Next week, we'll be back with our usual excitement and thrills and spills, crankiness and upsetness about some of the weirdness in today's world. Have a great week.